Hello everybody, I am really excited to announce that finally my novel, Through the Border Gates, is released on both Amazon and Barnes & Noble for their Kindle and Nook. So you can go to either site and get it for $5. So make sure you guys pick it up and leave a review. I'd love to hear what you guys think about my book. Hope you guys enjoy. So this week I want to start off with a quote by Jane Austen that says, supposedly she said, if a book is well written, I find it is too short. And welcome back to Fiction Friday. And I have this quote for dual purposes. One, because it's honestly pretty true. If your book is well written, it feels way too short. And with this book, The 13th Tale, that quote is all too true. But in the opposite of effect, if a book is poorly written, it's way too long. I'll get into that later. But also, Jane Austen was a Gothic writer for the 19th century, and 19th century literature was a huge theme in this book. How so? Well, this book is about Margaret Lee, who is a young biographer living and working in her parents' antiquated bookshop. So her parents own a bookshop that sells old books, rare books, so help the father go off, find them on auction, and then sell them in his shop for a higher price. So she comes home one day and finds a letter from fiction author Vida Winner, who is critically acclaimed in England. She's, one of the best sellers. Everybody loves her books, but Margaret hates contemporary fiction. She loves the Gothic novel. She loves the classic literature. She loves all of that, which is understandable. Some people love that stuff. Personally, I hate it. But so she gets this letter from Vida, Miss Winner, to write a biography on her life, to come over, get interviewed, hear her story, and put out her book. So Margaret, who one doesn't like contemporary fiction, and two, though has heard of her, isn't too thrilled to do this, picks up one of the books that she's found in her father's shop called The 13th Tale, aptly named. So, and she's reading through this book and she is hooked. Suddenly she loves contemporary fiction because of this. She finds it thrilling. So, and she reads the whole book in one night and then decides this is what she's going to go off to interview Miss Winner after reading one book. So while she's on the train to Yorkshire, she buys a whole bunch of her books and reads them throughout the trip, which is one of my problems, and I'll get to that issue in a minute. So she goes to meet Miss Winner, and they start their discussion about Miss Winner's life, and hears about the story of twins, and Margaret's confused about why she chose her, simply because Miss Winner read the one biography she did on a pair of twins that apparently made it to some global fame, which is another issue I have. So I'm going to just jump right into issues because that's all I could say without giving away any spoilers, because the rest of this book is literally just a biography of Miss Winner's life. You hear the different stories that happened from when she was an infant with her twin and growing up until she became Miss Winter. She wasn't, biggest spoiler probably is that she wasn't Miss Winter before. A lot of different secrets come out as Margaret is interviewing her for her biography. But to start with, one of my biggest problems is that a lot of things just appear in this book. Things just come up. Things just change suddenly, like Margaret's sudden love for contemporary fiction because she read one book by Miss Winter. To preface this, I'm giving this book 1 star. I gave it 1 star on my Goodreads review, giving it 1 star in this. This book, it hooked you in some places, but the twists are extremely obvious. So I was not very thrilled about this book at all. I heard it was amazing, picked it up, was bored. It's an extremely slow read, which to me feels poorly written. If your book is slow, it just seems very, very, very poorly written. If it's slow like this, it reads like a biography. Personally, I hate biographies. I'm not a fan. I mean, I will look it up online, maybe, if I want to learn about one person's history, but I will never sit there and go through everyone's life. I want to know the main point, and that's it. This book read like a biography, but it also kind of reminds me of The Farm because it's a story within a story. You hear somebody else's story. which is interesting. I like that point of view. But going back to the things that just appear, Miss Winter finds Margaret through one article she's written, one biography she wrote about a couple of twins that were pretty well known. But where was it that well known? Was this a critically acclaimed, that this biography so well written that this big time writer just finds this one piece that was probably floating around some, was it just that? I mean, there was no explanation into it. It's just like, well, you seem to have a knowledge of twins, you seem to have some kind of connection, so I chose you. There was probably some big time biographer, and apparently throughout the book you find out that many reporters have come and she has lied to them. Miss Winter has lied to the reporters about her story. She's giving them a new story, like a made up story. Like she made up like she was the princess in India or something like that. It's like she was kidnapped by people and she was raised somewhere else. So it's like, why would you lie about your past to other biographers? It doesn't make much sense. Reading through the book, you sort of understand why, and then the end, the big reveal, which it got me hooked for about all of 40 pages and then lost me again for a reason I'm going to go into very shortly. But I just feel a lot of this was so drawn out that a lot of details weren't needed. I sped read through a lot of parts because a lot of it wasn't necessary. If you understood the main core of what was going on, next chapter. And that, I feel, is very poor writing because you want to keep your reader hooked. You want to keep them leeching on every word. You want them to want more. This book, it's taken me 2 years to read this. I bought it 2 years ago, started it about 6 months after I bought it, put it down because I was bored. Started it again, put it down because I was bored. This book bored me incredibly. Now, when that part when I was hooked was probably about 50 pages towards the end, about 100 pages, towards the end for 40 pages. And then, though it was hinted at early in the book, she never explicitly said it. And this is a topic that is extremely sensitive for a lot of people. And it's not immigration ban, it's not anything like that that's going on now. It's rape. And I have a huge problem with this, especially in fiction, like in movies and television, and especially in literature, because a lot of authors feel that they need to add in rape for some unnecessary reason, to demonize a character who was already a demon. He was, the twins' uncle was already a demonized character through his behavior and torture of his sister, who was the twins' mother. And though it was implied early on in the book that he is a rapist, later on in the book, and I will spoil this because it infuriates me, he comes out as a serial rapist because his sister disappears. He just rapes anybody in town because he wants to. He forces, as she says, forces himself on anyone. And then more surprises, which I won't give away, which I think someone will figure this out. But to me, and I'm working currently on a piece about rape in fiction and why it's unnecessary and actually hurtful, is that there are victims out there that deserve better. That you don't just throw rape in a book because, it's a gripping part. Like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. That's not a purpose to do it. There are films, like recently I saw Split. Rape and abuse was put into it, but the theme of it wasn't just a theme. There was a message behind it. There was, you could have done a little better on that, but the way Shyamalan put it into his movie, it made a lot more sense than just, she was raped as a kid. It wasn't just that. This was just, he raped somebody, and this was the outcome. And it's just, I personally hate that because it doesn't feel right in a book. It doesn't feel right to the people who go through that. It's frustrating that a lot of authors just throw it in there. Now, my book has a reference to rape as well, but it is needed for the story. It's not just thrown in there to throw a twist in there or to make it more interesting or to demonize the male. It explains the effects of the family member as well. It that's one way you can possibly do it. There are a number of ways that I'm still researching how to include rape into fiction, but make it in a meaningful way. But that's not just that wasn't my number one hate on this book. It was just how poorly written this felt. It felt like a biography. The main character was forever confused. Margaret was, why am I here? What is going on? She felt lost throughout the whole book. Then she just suddenly has a fucking breakdown. Whoops. Sorry. She just suddenly has a breakdown. She just passes out. Where did that come from? Like I said, this book, things just seem to appear. Things just popped up out of nowhere. Like, she suddenly gets sick. I mean, it doesn't help walking around outside without a jacket in the pouring rain in the middle of winter. But she just goes insane. And there is a reason for that, which I won't give away, because someone may enjoy this book. Someone may greatly enjoy this book, but I didn't. Me being a writer who loves twists, I heard this book had great twists, but the twists were very obvious. A lot of things just appeared. The just addition of rape, this book felt very poor. Now, going back, I mentioned something about the Gothic. Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte, and all of those other Gothic writers were very heavily laced in this. This book felt very much like a Gothic novel almost, but set in contemporary times, which is ironic because the main character hated contemporary fiction, yet this is contemporary fiction. But with that twist of Gothic, which was interesting. That's why I give it 1 star. So maybe somebody will enjoy this book. My review is obviously very biased. So maybe somebody will enjoy this book. I'd love if maybe you guys read this, if somebody was interested in this book, to pick it up, and I'd love to hear your side of this, your side of your review, if you guys enjoyed it. So until next week, I'm AJ Freese, and thank you. Hope you guys enjoy.